Hello to you again. I am Bo, founder of the Sage Method, and I am back with another Q&A. So the question today that was posed by Susan, and her question is a great one because I get this question also a lot. It is, am I channeling messages? So the answer is yes, but I don't want to just end the video here because that would be very boring. So I'd like to take this time to also answer a second question, which is, what is the difference? How do psychics pick up information? How do mediums pick up information? What is the difference between a psychic and a medium? And I want to connect that to Susan's question of, am I channeling messages? Because the answer is yes. When it comes to channeling is one of those spiritual terms that ends up being like a lot of spiritual terms out there. We use things like energy, vibration, etc., and we're not necessarily using those terms the way, the dictionary lays them out. We're using them in different ways to try to explain an aspect of spirituality or an aspect of intuition. But we do use them relatively fluid. So some of these words haven't really landed on a solid definition. When I say channeling, it means exactly this in the intuitive world. When I say energy, it means exactly this in the intuitive world. So channeling is one of those terms. If we look at it at its core, in essence, what it's saying is something is running through you. So if you're channeling, you're allowing something to go through you. So pretty much all intuitive experiences are going to be channeling. Now, we like to think about Whoopi in the movie Ghost, and that spirit comes in and takes over the body, and that a lot of people, that's their definition of channeling because that's what they know. But I like to give it a broader path, because you don't necessarily need to, have a Whoopi Goldberg ghost experience to have information come to you and through you. And that's in essence the definition of channeling. So now I want to talk about the difference between psychic and medium, and then come back around to connect that on how each channels, and maybe offer a little perspective on a viewpoint. What I would love to see is you finish watching this video and go, oh, I'm so that, or I'm so that. That's what would really excite me with these Q&As. So the difference between psychic and medium. Psychics pick up energies from this existence, this plane, from people, from animals, from earth, from events. So psychics can tap into the energies around them and get information. Whereas a medium is a little bit different. They get information from a conscious source on the other side, like a past loved one, a guide, a being of sorts. So they get information very differently. And here's my favorite analogy, because I love analogies. They make my brain happy. But here's my favorite analogy around this. If I was doing if a psychic and a medium were doing a reading for someone, let's say that person's, whole existence, they themselves is a body of water, it's a lake. And the psychic and the medium are standing on the dock at the edge of this lake, which is representative of the person. A psychic could just jump in the lake, swim around over to the relationship area of the pond, over to the job area, and they can swim around and navigate and pick up information. Whereas a medium, it's different. The medium on the dock, in this analogy, has to wait for a soul or guide, a loved one, to pull up in a boat, have them get into the boat, drive them over to the spot they want to talk about, and then drop the medium into the lake at that spot, and then get them back in the boat. So mediums are very reliant on guides, loved ones, higher sources of that sort. And psychics have a lot more free range. Now, one is not better than the other. So it's just like everything else in life. If you have straight hair, you wish it was curly. If you have curly hair, you wish it was straight hair. I tend to be really like almost 100% medium. I have very few psychic moments. And so of course I think, oh, it'd be so great to just be able to tap in. Another great example of this is if I lose my keys, I'm a medium, not a psychic. So it's harder for me. I wouldn't be able, well, I can't say I wouldn't be able to, right? Because everything's possible, but it's harder to psychically just close my eyes and navigate through that pond to where the keys might be, I have to wait for a guide or a loved one to show up and say, here's where your keys are. So that's the difference between psychic and medium. So I wanted to explain that because that really expands on the channeling part and shows you that how information flows is going to be different according to your intuitive style, because everyone's intuitive style is unique to them. Now, a lot of people at this point ask the question, well, are you either psychic or medium? The answer is no. You can be, 98% medium like me and get super excited when you have that psychic experience. Or you can be 98% psychic and get super excited when you have a mediumship experience. But most of us lie somewhere in the middle. Most of us, it's usually a 50-50, maybe like 25-75, and that's really mostly the norm. So if you've had both of those types of experiences, you're not alone. You're just in the middle. And you can laugh at those of us who are walking around finding our keys and we don't have a soul to help us find them in the moment. But channeling for psychic information is more of throwing out like sort of it's more of like a wide fishing net. They're more submersing their self in the information, and that's how it's channeling through them. For psychics, when it comes to mediums, channeling is a much more direct line where it's more like a conversation. A conversation is being channeled through a medium, where for a psychic, they're submersing themselves in the energy of the particular situation or person that they're reading. And by submersing themselves in that energy, they're able to have the information that they want kind of bubble up to the surface, and they channel it through that way. So Susan, thank you for asking this question. It's a great one. It's very common. But the bottom line is, if you're having an intuitive moment, you're channeling. It's always is coming from somewhere, whether the intuitive information is coming from a guide, a past loved one, another living person, an animal, the earth, or your higher self. Because I have sometimes people say, well, no, it came from within me. Yeah, that's your higher self. And so if your higher self is communicating and allowing information to flow down and through you, that's yet another way that you're channeling. So hope that answers the question, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you again, Susan, for asking it, and I will be back tomorrow.